Hi, welcome to the Mystic Chat episode 19. And today we are going to talk about the magic of healing. And this particular topic, I know we're all very well versed about in different unique modalities, and I'm kind of curious to see where this conversation is gonna go because, as you know us, we will start on blue and end up on polka dot, or or start on school where and end up who knows where off the table. So just a quick introduction. My name is Chris Allen. I am a published author. I am the minister and lead trainer of our seminary at the Fellowship of the Phoenix. And I would like to introduce the other co-host, Laura Gonzalez. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Laura Gonzalez. I am a priestess of the goddess in the goddess tradition. I am a minister in training with the Minister's Training Program at Circle Sanctuary. I am a podcaster. I have a couple of shows on CSMP, the Circle Sanctuary Network podcast. I do this video blog twice a month because I didn't have enough activities. And and I don't know, I'm a tarot reader and a witch for hire. Pew, pew. And I love talking, so here I am talking to y'all. Thank y'all for watching. And the beautiful and magical Ruby Rose, will you introduce yourself, honey?
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Ruby Ruse. I am a YouTube artist. You can find my channel on YouTube. It's called Fairy Fortunes. I talk about folklore and fairy magic and lots of fairy themed events on my channel, so I do hope you will check that out. And I am also a festival professional divinationer. I read my own system of cards called Fairy Fortunes. And I travel around the United States performing at various festivals, reading my cards. So do hope you will check that out. So I'm excited to be a part of this discussion on healing today.
I know very excited about it, and it's one of those things like by day, with all the other things that I do. I'm also a massage therapist, a licensed massage therapist, and so it's all about the body and finding balance. And one of the things that always I think about when it comes to all healing is a word I was taught the very first day of my clinical massage therapy class, and that was homeostasis. And homeostasis means bring to bring the body back into balance. And the reason that's important is a lot of people just think heal, be better. And the reality of it is that how is it that we come into a place of a balance? And what does that mean? And what does that mean with our spellcraft and our runes, our tarot, our shamanism, our journeying, our witchcraft? What does that mean? So I want to start with Laura, because her and I were talking about it, and frankly, this was her suggestion. And she's like, "Let's talk about this." I was like, "Okay." So, Laura, give us some thoughts about magical healing and what it looks like, especially for what it looks like from your point of view.
Of course. First of all, I would love to do quote and start with a disclaimer of paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote. Paraphrasing Scott Cunningham, the late Scott Cunningham, who said, if you have a law issue, please seek the help of a lawyer. If you are sick, please seek the help of a professional medical doctor. But if you want to do magic, then you can do magic on your own. So I think that magic, witchcraft, paganism, spiritual practices, etc., leave a lot of room for fantasy and we have to still be logical thinkers. And I think that if I'm dealing, God forbid, with a illness that is really, one of those like almost devastating things such as cancer, or people who are now dealing with COVID, and or people who are dealing with like these illnesses that are progressive and that is really hard to cure. Yes, to have a holistic approach of things is very important, and it helps. And a friend of mine said a long time ago, we don't know what the mind can do. So
Mm.
yes, it is amazing that it's really important that we keep a positive approach to healing, and that we help with our magic, with our mind, with our intent, that we help ourselves to heal. But it's also important to follow the medical approach, right? And if somebody has pneumonia, we're not going to just pray for them. We're going to make sure that they go to the doctor, and they're on a respirator if needed, in cases such as COVID. So I always approach my practice, the tarot, the healing with hands, the Reiki, all of that. I always approach that with the disclaimer of, I'm not a medic, I'm not a doctor, I'm a natural healer, I'm a magical healer, and I believe that these tools help holistically, but they are not the only tools. And again, with the fantasy and the fantastic thinking that is very enticing and is very abundant in our pagan and or witchcraft community, um, because we are magical beings and we like to think of fantasy, but the reality is that when you have a serious illness, you need to see a doctor. With that said, I mean, that opens up a whole other side of the conversation, but as I use this as my disclaimer with my clients, I figure I throw that as the first hot in the rodeo, and then maybe we can dance around it with a magical approach to healing. I don't know if you all have any input on that.
Amy, or Ruby Rose, what are your thoughts about that? I kind of see the gears turning there.
Well, I think that magic can help a lot in many circumstances. And I remember actually in 2009, actually in 2008 and 2009, I went blind. I could still actually physically see, but I was classified as legally blind because I had no ability to focus my vision. One eye was up here, looking over here, and then the other eye had listed and was looking down this direction. And for an entire year, I was misdiagnosed. And I was told that I had benign positional vertigo, and that was it. Apparently, it's where crystals form in your ear canal and disrupt your balance. So I also suffered, during the time that I was blind, I also suffered from severe vertigo, where I was dizzy all day, every day, for an entire year of my life.
Wow.
And I was given this diagnosis, and I was basically told that this was going to be my life. And I used my magical training to go deep into myself, into the underworld. I spoke to my gods, and they insisted that there was something else wrong, and that I had to keep pursuing the correct diagnosis. And what it turned out to be is actually thyroid cancer. I have a scar on my neck now. The tumor was so large, and the problem is that thyroid tumors usually grow forward. Mine was growing backwards and was putting pressure on the artery to my brain and was killing me.
Wow.
And had I not listened with my magic, I would be dead right now. So I do think, I agree wholeheartedly that We cannot entirely rely on faith healing. What our magic is for is what we absolutely need to listen to the messages of our own bodies, and we need to listen to the messages of our gods, and we need to listen to the universe because it will tell us when something is wrong, and we really need to learn how to listen to that.
Mhm.
So that's just my personal experience with magical healing.
I think that's interesting because, like, I mean, you guys know I teach like Reiki classes and chakra healings and things like that, and I teach especially for, I mean, I the wider community, but especially for massage therapists. So I teach energy healing to professionals or professional healers. And it's interesting because, you know, there's this whole thing about um, the New Age community, right? Can you hear a whole lot of you hear half and half. You hear some people like, "Oh, it's the best thing in the world," and then you have people say, "I hate it." What I find, what I have found about the New Age healing community is they have done very well of creating their own systems, and part of it, yes, part of it is that they do take a little bit of dash of Buddhism, a little dash of Native American stuff, and they sometimes let's just say they refine it to a very American workable system for them. Um, Reiki, however, I will say is their system. It is the New Age system. I teach it. I'm a Reiki master fourth degree. So well, what that means is I teach people how to teach Reiki, and it was I kind of think of Reiki as the king of all New Age healing modality because that's people's go-to. And but the reason I bring it up is because you know there's this whole idea about sending universal energy because that's what Reiki means. It means um, Frey means universe and Ki means energy, so universal energy. So if we teach this thing in advanced healing, I think they should teach it in introductory healing. That we all have a psychic blueprint. So kind of like you're in the anatomy of your body, like your veins, your cells, your organs, all those things. They, as you know, they have a psychic counterpart. Well, that psychic counterpart should be healthy and humming along and the energy flowing and the chakras spinning around, but sometimes they get all crazy and wonky because of our thoughts, our emotions, our environments, like environment being toxins, of course, but also toxic energy of like your spouse or your boss or whoever screaming profanities at you. It affects us, you know. It's not supposed to. We're supposed to shield and all that stuff, but it does. Whoever's like, I'm so powerful that I could get yelled at 24 hours a day and I'm fine is lying. But anyway, so the energy or the Reiki or the healing or the magic or whatever, um, the healing from the gods or the spirits, it affects our psychic blueprint first. You know, and a lot of people say, oh, well, I wanted to be healed. Well, no, it's not like that. I wish I can just lay my hands on somebody and they can see, but they don't. What happens is they have to uh, heal the psychic blueprint of our bodies, and then in that psychic energy affects our physical body. You know, so that's the whole mechanics of how it works and why it works. However, so I'm curious about Laura, about your idea of how the spirits, how the gods heal us and what that's like. And do you think we have to have an agreement with them? So, like, for example, can I just pray to a god and say, hey, I need healing? Or do I have to find a permanent god? Or what do you think that's like when it comes to gods?
I can tell you about an anecdote,
Mm.
and this is going to send everybody to the laughing gas. So, I, like everybody else and their cousin, live in this society that condemns fat people. If you are fat and you're happy, there's something wrong with you. So, I bought the idea that fatness was badness and that I needed to be skinny. And, for a long time, I was asking the gods to help me change my habits and to help me be healthier, because I also thought, because society teaches this lie, that if I were to be skinny, I were to be healthy. And in case you haven't read between the lines, that's a lie, and fat people can be healthy as well. And anybody deserves dignity, whether they are skinny or fat or healthy or not. I just want to throw that out there. So I keep asking the gods to help me be healthy, and more particularly to help me change my habits, because I needed to eat better to feel better. And I used to eat junk food all the time. I never cook at home. Little did I know that what I wanted was to be vegan and not be eating dead bodies. And I didn't know that. And, I was eating all kinds of stuff, and I was always ordering out, and I was always eating whatever. And you can ask our dear friend Aaron Marsh. I will be getting sick every other time.
Mm.
So when you ask the gods to help you change your habits and you get sick every other time and you do nothing about it, the gods are just going like, which part do you don't understand, because I quite literally, I am the kind of person that when I get sick on my stomach, I ended up at the hospital.
Mm.
I had hepatitis C and it was really, really bad. And that's the kind of how ill, how sickly I could get. Also, I'm a Cancer, and if you follow astrology, us Cancers, we have a very, very delicate stomach, and we get sick very easily. So I keep asking the gods to help me change my habits, and I keep not listening, and I keep getting sick. So what ended up happening is I had hepatitis C. I ended up at the hospital, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I think you want me to start cooking at home. And so I think it's a tit for tat, if you will. I think we can ask the gods, not necessarily to make an agreement, because I think that is a very Christianized concept, a very Catholicized, if you will, concept. I will be a good person if you give me this reward. And I don't believe, and again, I don't speak for every pagan that exists, but on Laura's paganism, I don't believe that our gods are punishing us or making contracts or agreements with us. I think that when we ask for help, healing, and knowledge, they give us it. And sometimes we listen at the first time, and sometimes we need to be tapped on the shoulder, and sometimes we need to be pushed to listen.
I agree with that 100%.
So
I have another story that kind of correlates with what you're saying, Laura.
yeah, let me finish this thought real quickly. So I finally, thank you, Goddess, I found what works for me, and what works for me is actually a vegan diet. And I'm not trying to convince anybody, you do you, boo. But it works for me, and not only it works, but I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm cooking, I'm happy in my kitchen. I used to hate cooking. I used to hate being in my kitchen. And when you align with what you're supposed to be doing, everything else falls in place. My numbers are great. I feel great. I'm very active. I have, at 47, I've never been this healthy, and it all had to do with my diet. So the gods were speaking. I just was being a spoiled brat that didn't listen. So that'll be the contract, I guess, you know, give me a sign. There's the sign. Oh, I cannot see the sign. Boom, boom, boom. There's another 20. Ruby, take it over.
Well, I was listening to your story and I thought that I have another story that I could tell about healing from the gods. When I gave birth to my son 15 years ago, because I'm that old, I believe that I died. I believe that I died in childbirth, and I had a very classic out-of-body experience. And at the time, I was going through convulsions and fever. And I remember my head slamming on the back of my own couch at home from this fever that I was having. And I was so unbearably cold, and all of a sudden it stopped. And there was this beautiful white light, and it was just so peaceful and so beautiful. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that it's over. That's what I said to myself. And I was referring to the fever and the cold and the convulsions, but I realized that I was actually referring to everything. And I went, oh, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead. And it was at that moment that I called to, I actually had not, I didn't believe in like different goddesses and gods at the time. I believed that I had a kind of a monotheist, but a generic monotheist relationship. But I liked the idea of Diana. But I actually referred to her as Artemis, not as Diana. But for some reason in this fever dream, I called out expressly to Diana. And I said, I want to live because I want to be a mother to my son. And why this correlates, I feel, to your story, Laura, is that I believe the gods will help us, but we have to know exactly what we need and what we want. And is expressly difficult to do because, believe it or not, I truly, honestly believe that it is easier to get what we want than to know what we want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the trick is yes, they will help you, but you need to know what you want. And maybe with Laura, not that I can, make any judgments on your gods and your relationship, but maybe you were trying to force yourself into cooking, or you were trying to force yourself into this idea of healthy eating because that's what you thought you wanted. But in reality, it really wasn't what you wanted. So when you finally understood what you wanted and you needed, then you were gifted with the health that you were seeking.
Ooh, profound. I love that advice. That's amazing.
But that's just been my experience, because when I asked, this is why I want to live, and this is why I want to live.
That's awesome.
I did the whole, it was like classic out of the movies, totally, and I was 100% cured. I had I had been hemorrhaging before I had gone into the convulsions. There was no sign of the hemorrhaging. I had no fever. It was as if there was nothing wrong with me, not a thing. I should have, I went to the doctor's office to tell him what happened, and he was baffled. He's literally stood up and screamed, you shouldn't be here. Why are you standing? You should be in the hospital. But I was fine. I was absolutely fine.
Wow.
I think that's where, like I said, going back to what I keep referring to what Laura said, because I am 100% in alignment with that, is that we can't replace medicine with magic. But I do think that magic works with medicine.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
when I was, the last time that I got really sick, that's when I had the hepatitis C and ended up going to the hospital, and it was bad. And I mentioned that to a few friends, and I'm referring to this because you asked specifically for deities or gods that have helped me, and a couple of friends of mine helped me. I have a friend who works with Chiron, and he recommended, you know, pray to Chiron and you will get the healing. And then another friend of mine recommended to work with Hygienia, the Greek goddess Hygienia.
Hygeia, yeah.
Hygeia, thank you.
Yeah.
And so, but I refer, I mean, other than working with Mercury and Fortuna, I don't, like you, Ruby, I don't refer to them as specifically a name, you know, I'm just like, please, goddess, help me. But it's definitely the will. So when we talk about magic, most of us, I don't know if everybody agrees, but it's the intent, right? The intent is the most important part. Like, what is our intention, what we want? As you were saying, Ruby, sometimes we don't know what we want, so we try to be as specific as possible. And I think that once you find exactly what you want, the whom or who is going to be the messenger or who's going to bring you the healing is not to be disrespectful to the gods, but it's not irrelevant, but it's not really that important, you know. And I think also that when you finally find that aha moment, when you're like, okay, this is what I need, I totally believe I see it on my head like this gears that reshape and reaccommodate in order to help you get through to what you need to get through. And that happened with folks, you know, like, not to be simplistic, but when people are dealing with, like, for example, alcoholism, and they say, you know, the first thing they need to know is that they have an illness, and to accept that and then seek help and healing and change. I believe that applies to everything, you know. The first thing that we need to realize is I need help with this illness and I need to get better, and then seek the advice and try to find what is going to happen, and then not to stay stuck on the intention, because all of this self-healing new age mantras and meditations and all that works because it's the element of air and it's the mind. But what about the other elements? You know, we have to put fire in it, we have to put passion on it, we have to do the things. How am I going to make my joints better if I don't walk? I need to walk so my muscle builds, so I feel better, so I can walk. And I know my friend Speranza is here. She will say, you need to drink some water, Laura. I don't like water, but every time I see her beautiful face, I'm like, I need to drink some water because she's right. So, you know, it's about doing the things and not just staying on one element and just the mind, but being proactive on our own physical, magical health.
I do think too that there's an element of responsibility, and I think responsibility is connected to the will. And I kept getting spiritual messages saying you forgot a piece of your story, and the piece of my story that I forgot is that I really believe the reason that I'm here today after dying in childbirth is that I said, I want to live, I want to be a mother. I want to be a mother. If I had said, no, my child needs me, I would have been dead. That prayer would not have been answered because no, the reality is this, my child would have been loved and cared for whether or not I was here. His life, I hope, is better for me being here. But he would have had a life without me. He did not need me. I wanted to live because I wanted to experience being his mother. Mm. It sounds selfish, but that's the thing, is that in our Western culture, especially, we've got this idea of I am second. I remember seeing those billboards all over the place. No. If you try to use that in magical healing, it will not work. because it has to be, this is what I want, not what other people might want. No, it has to be, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I want to eat food that is good for me. I want to live.
You know, I agree with you 100% because it's about your well. It's about the well. And I think from from my experience in hearing your story, um, it's almost like the gods are like, okay, you're at the threshold of death. You're at the threshold of something, and maybe it doesn't have to be as grand as that. It can be a threshold of a new career, or a threshold in between relationships, or a threshold between spiritual journeys. What do you want? Oh, so and so needs that. That's not the question. What do you want? Because you're the one. The exactly what you said. The gods will take care of those other people, but right now you have a one-on-one phone call with the divine, and you only get one thing to say. So guess what? Say it. You know, does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing, as you both you guys were talking, is I am a firm believer. You have to dance in all four elements for healing. Because you know, one of the things about you know being a massage therapist is I work in a spa, and it's all about you know wellness and skincare and anti-aging. Like anti-aging is the huge thing, right? And so I read, and part of it I'm curious about why people age quickly and why some people don't. Some of it is what they call your prenatal cheek, or your or the life force that you were born with. And unfortunately, if you have, I hate to say bad gene, I hate that, but if you've had, like for example, if you're an unhealthy baby, you probably have low life force. However, that doesn't mean you're going to have an unhealthy life. You can compensate by doing exercise, energy work, food. All these things give us energy, you know. You know, for the quality of air we breathe. But that's just the element of fire, so energy. What about our emotions? You know, are we, do we have relationships? Now, that doesn't mean, oh, I'm single. Oh my God, I'm not in a relationship. I'm going to be sick. No, it's not that dramatic. Relationships can be relationships to your family, your friends, and to yourself, and the divine and the ancestors. Relationships, you know. Another thing, of course, your body. Are you moving? Are you um, in practices like qigong and yoga and things like that? And never mind like cycling and tennis, things like that. But like in qigong and yoga, they teach that if the body moves, then the energy in the body also has to move. When energy is moving, disease can't set in because your energies have to move, and they have to basically cycle forth. I guess I'm having a blip in my brain. I can't think of a better word. Um, but the energy and your body, they work together. So fire and earth. The other correlation, of course, is air and water. So your mental facilities and your emotions. And we all know the mind and the heart are connected. They're connected. Sometimes they want different things, but they're still connected. So one of the things about anti-aging is they've done extensive studies about people who retire, that if the people who retire and do nothing, and I don't mean the people who retire and they volunteer or they teach or they write books or they do whatever. No, they're still keeping their mind active. I'm talking about the people who do nothing. Well, a lot of studies have shown that those people who do nothing after retirement, their health begins to go down faster and their mind begins to go faster. One of the reports I read said, try doing a crossword puzzle. I'm like, I think that's a band-aid. That's not actually getting your mind going. You know, read a book or have something challenging, have some great conversation, watch the Mystic Chat, things like that. But you have to have like all four elements,
Yeah.
you know, in tangent. And one of the things I personally need the audience to know is that you don't have to be perfect in your healing.
Exactly.
And you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to like, I go to therapy twice a week and I know myself and I do the shadow work. I'm great. You don't have to do all of that. You have to at least try. And you may not eat the best, but you know, I would joke every so often because in my family, we're from Texas. So like salad's not so much a thing. So I would joke with my family, it's like, put some salad, just put it on the plate, push it around with a fork. I don't care, just have a salad on there because it's very meat and potatoes in my family, you know. Um, but try. No, just do the best you can, you know. Um, Laura, you had thoughts, it looks like.
I always, and um, I think, like you say, you know, it's you read my mind because I was about to say the overall health, right? One of my mantras, because a lot of people that watch this, they want to know the how, right? How you do it. So one of my mantras are of healing, whenever I do healing for myself or I'm helping, assisting other people to heal, is I always say, you know, I'm healthy, present tense. And then I throw the whole enchilada there. I'm healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually,
Mhm.
and what I'm missing one. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, obviously.
Energetically, yeah.
Yeah. Um, because everything is connected, as you said, you know, the hip bone's connected to the leg bone. And activity is really important. And um, as you pray, as you have a daily devotion, as you have your mantra, take a little walk. You will not believe me if I tell you that 5 years ago, I would work 0 steps. And now I am, at 6,000, right?
It's
But
awesome.
how did I start it? Is I started with go to a corner and come back, and then go to a corner and come back twice, and then you know, slowly but surely, you find your way to health habits. And what is the most amazing thing in the world? You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be a new age healer. You don't have you just stumble into this phrase. The body heals itself
Yep.
so much and so quickly. You'll have no freaking idea. Because when I was eating an omnivore diet, and I was born with low calcium, I was born with bad bones, I was born with people, my parents thought I was not going to be able to walk, right? So that's how bad my problems were. In my whole life, I was diagnosed with arthritis at 25. I think I had it before, but anyway, arthritis at 25, and then now I'm 47. If I get up after being sitting for an hour, when I get up, I need to kind of like feel that the bones stuck down, and you know, once they all go, then I can walk. And I've been vegan for 6 months. And now, if I need to go to the bathroom, I can get up and go, versus I used to have to get up, pause, and then go. So our body, the capacity of our body to heal is infinite. We have no idea what the body can do. And at the same time, we have no idea what our energy, what our magic can do. So
Hmm.
meditate, take a deep breath, take a walk. Walking stimulates the mind like you have no idea, because it is such an aimlessly thing to do, either walk or jog or run or whatever, but you know, whatever the ability to your body. But when you walk in, you're so like not really thinking about, you don't have to think about being walking.
Mhm.
And then your mind just starts going. And I usually take my phone because I get such inspirations for new shows or new interviews or prayers or whatever. And I'm walking, and then all of a sudden this chant comes to my mind, and I'm like, I mean, let me grab the phone and just chant it in the phone, and it will stay there forever. Um, it stimulates all your senses, and I figure,
As to what Chris was saying about being in motion.
Yeah.
yes,
It's a
Movement.
healing process. It's the process of fire and earth together.
Mhm.
yes, yes. And so going to the techniques, all of us here do Reiki.
Mhm.
I used to do healing with hands when I was a child. They didn't call it Reiki. In my opinion, and my very personal opinion, is the same thing, but it's people want to know that you're a Reiki healer. So I went and did my Reiki thing. Um, but so I love Reiki. I love meditation. I love visualizing the green light and the healing and throwing out the garbage and releasing what's not right. Um, touching, I think that actually touching yourself with healing intention is a good thing, but there are places on your body that you cannot touch. So what all other techniques on self or by a practitioner do you guys like?
Um, so that's a weird question because here's why. I probably know 18,000 million different modalities. I teach like 10. I do well, that's a good one. Tuning fork, I teach tuning fork, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, the three things I love the most, and I love, 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 love. Of course, I love massage. People are like, let's go get a facial. I'm like, no, let's go get a massage. Um, I like that. I like Reiki. And I tell all my clients, I'm like, even if you think it's a whole bunch of crap, it will put you into the deepest sense of relaxation you've ever had. It will. And I like the tuning fork. And I have a story about tuning fork. And people say, oh, it's all new agey. It is new agey, and I love it. Here's why. So being a massage therapist on my second year, third maybe, I was like doing like 6 clients a day, 5 days a week, and I had tendonitis so bad in my elbow, like I couldn't even hardly do this, and I couldn't do a deep tissue. It had to be like Swedish, and so I took my teacher, Billy Topatate. She's also my Native American teacher, but anyway, I took a tuning fork class from her because I had to have like so many hours of continuing education for my licensing. So I took it thinking it's going to be a simple class. Who cares? I get the hours. I don't care. So Billy's in class and she goes, okay, so who wants to be a guinea pig? Because she says not only does it like clear out the energy and balance, it also heals tendonitis. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see about that. But okay, I'll go. And so she hits it. She hits the tuning fork. In fact, I think I have it over here. Um, Puts it on my tendonitis. And you put pressure, and you don't have to do anything. You just hit it on like a hockey puck thing. It vibrates, and you put on the tendonitis. I swear to all my gods, the tendonitis was instantly, like the pain was gone. When I mean instant, I mean it wasn't a day or an hour. It was instant, bam, it felt perfect. And I'm just like sold. And now I teach that class. In fact, I'm teaching it on Sunday here and in Chicago. I'm doing a tuning fork class, and it sounds like the cheesiest thing in the world. I swear by it. I love it. And the cool thing is, and I didn't know that. So the frequency of, I mean, so the tuning forks can be in several frequencies. So one that I think heals the best is 128C. 128C, can you guess what sound it makes? Can you guess? Is 128C. So apparently, it is the same frequency as the Aum, and the Aum, it's A-U-M. It is the sound that the creator made to create the universe. So regenerate, to create, to make, to heal. So that one, 128C, is what I use for everything. Isn't that cool? So massage, Reiki, and the tuning fork. What about you, Amy? What do you like?
She's muted and she needs you to unmute her.
How did that happen?
Because we mute ourselves and we forget that we
Don't
need
mute
to
your,
ask permission.
hold on. Let me find it. There she is. There she is.
I was talking to my son, so I muted myself and I wound up muted. Oh no. The question was, for me, I'm an empath, and that word is thrown around a lot. What it means for me is that I can resonate, going with the tuning fork imagery, I can resonate with other people's energies. Unfortunately, a lot of empaths, when they're new to their abilities, they tend to absorb the resonation, which can be detrimental. But if you vibrate with the person, you can release the vibration. But anyone actually can resonate with another human being, and I'm going to tell you how to do it right now. And just when you look at someone and you can clearly see that something's wrong, you just let them talk. And then if they say, oh, I'm fine, and you just say, you know what, you say you're fine, but you don't seem fine. Can you tell me more about that? That's the part. Can you tell me more about that? And you just let them open up and you let that resonation happen, and it helps the person release those energies and helps them heal in the moment. And so that's largely and how I help to heal people. And I'm in a profession where I have the opportunity to do that a lot of the times, where it's just letting the person be angry, letting the person grieve, letting the person be sad, just letting them have that resonation and vibrating with them and holding that space to have that vibration. Listening to you talk about tuning forks, it just makes me want to get one now, because I feel that's
$13 on Amazon.
Now I want to do that. Because I feel like that's something that human beings can do, and to use the tuning fork would help people tap into that more easily, I think. But it really comes down to just holding space for people, I think.
I think that's amazing advice, Amy. Thank you for saying that, because I think in our society, for especially men, we're trying to fix it. And I keep trying to explain to people, stop trying to fix everything. Just listen. Just friggin' listen. Just like you said, create space. And you know how grandfather clocks, they'll synchronize with each other? I think by listening and being open to what they have to say, it doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It means you have to be open to hearing them. Then you can be empathic and hear what they have to say. Laura, you're going to say something. What are you going to say?
That what Amy just said about, can you please tell me more, is the basics of pastoral counseling and active listening. Active is the basis of mental healing. Is when you go to your therapist, when you go to a group therapist, when you are holding space for others, that is exactly what is happening, is active listening, and that's what helps heal the mind. And all one has to do is not give advice, not try to control, not give solutions, just listen, because what humans need is to be heard and to release that energy. That's why I particularly, since I do tarot professionally, a lot of folks get the healing, yes, from the cards, yes, from the interpretation, yes, from the advice, and yes, for whether you believe we, the readers, channel or not. at least at that moment, it's their time.
Mm.
And they are talking about their issues. They are expressing themselves freely. They are not being judged. They're feeling that they're in a safe space. And then we go into the cards and all of that. But it is the basis of mental healing. And I believe that when we have mental health, everything else just falls in place, you know? So yeah, I totally believe that people need to listen to each other, because that's the basics of, one of the very basics of psychological health, you know?
I mean, you know what's so interesting right now is I'm interning in a hospital for a chaplaincy program. And one of the things that they keep teaching us over and over is that you don't have to have the answer. And if anything, just by listening and just being there, like um, I'm just trying to think because I can't really talk about the patients per se, but like every time I have a situation to where someone is upset or whatever their feeling is, um, I just listen, and they say, "Oh, thank you so much for your advice," and I'm like, "I don't say a word." But that's because it isn't about necessarily having the right answer. It's about, and I find this in my own private spiritual counseling as well with my congregation and my circle and my friends and things like that. It's really hardly ever about, hey, help me find a solution. It's a, I want to be heard, or I need to vent, because I think we, in our jobs, we have to be professional all the time, and we can't say how we're feeling, you know? Because you can't, I mean, and it makes sense. If I'm trying to help a person, I can't say, well, I really don't feel like it right now, you know, because you're there for them and you're present for them, but you still have to own your own feelings, and you still have life. And so, like, I think one of the hardest things to think about this all the time, like doing a massage or a healing or Reiki for someone, and you're going through something very heavy on a personal level. And how I learned to get through it. So, all you healers or potential healers out there, here's some advice for you. When you're scheduled to do a healing, maybe it's a healing for yourself, maybe it's a meditation for yourself, or a ritual, or whatever. Your problems are still going to be there when you're done with the healing, or when you're done with the meditation. Um, But just for that moment, say I'm meditating on healing for myself. For that moment, whatever's bothering you, put it on a shelf. Put it on a shelf, and try not to think about it. And if you do think about it, that's okay. Just try not to focus on it. You know, be present either for yourself or be present for the other person, because for that hour or half hour, you can't work on that problem anyway. You can work on your emotions and you can work on your thought patterns, but whatever's going on, you're gonna have to just put it on a shelf. And the reason I say on the shelf is because we're not throwing it away. We're not saying, "Oh, we're done now." We're saying, Just for right now, I'm gonna put it over here in the back, and I'll deal with it later." You know, because I think sometimes we have a hard time being present, and that's normal. You know, I used to read all these books all the time. When you're meditating, or when you're journeying, or when you're doing a ritual, whatever you do, don't lose focus. Don't lose focus. And so I'm like, oh, good, what do I do? Okay, well, that didn't help. But what I find is a lot more helpful is if I say I'm meditating, or I'm doing a spell, whatever I'm doing, and something pops in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, red fire trucks. Okay. I don't need to think about red fire trucks right now, but I'll think about you later. And when I at least acknowledge it, I don't think about it anymore. At least I don't. I mean, it may pop in people's head. But my point of this is be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself. You're gonna screw it up, and that's okay. That's why we're all learning. So Amy, it looks like you're gonna say something.
Oh, no, I'm just agreeing with you. And the only thing that I want to add, I think, is that, you know, like I have these powerful stories that I shared about these healing experiences that I've had. And I don't want to give anyone the idea that they have to, that that's always going to be what it's like. And if they can't meet that same level, that they've failed and that they're a bad magician or they can't heal themselves, because it's not always like that. Sometimes it's just like what Laura was saying, is it's getting to the corner. And that's the healing for that day. And then building, like, yes, I do think that there are these powerful stories that are out there. But I just want people to appreciate that it's not always like that, and you're not a failure, and that this is a process and a life journey that's going to have highs and lows and different levels of expectations being met.
That's good. Laura, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Repeat to yourself as much as you can, I am healthy, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
That's good.
Even if you don't believe it, try to believe it at least for the 2 seconds where you're saying it. And then bring it out of the air, mind, into physically, emotionally, and spiritual activities, you know.
Awesome.
That'll be my final thought. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so we're at the end of our hour. This one went by really fast, but I have to tell you, this is one of my favorites. I love talking about this stuff. I can do it all day long. I want to thank my co-hosts, Ruby Ruse and Laura Gonzalez, for being a part of this awesome discussion today. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Right now, it's currently on Chris Allaun. So subscribe to the channel, and we're also on Spotify and iTunes and now Google Play. And you can listen to us as you're walking and getting those steps in and getting your exercises in. So with that, I will say good night, and we shall see you in probably 2 weeks. Oh, and what are we talking about in 2 weeks, Laura?
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
So excited. All right. So